The next speaker is Fernanda Gonzalez, joining us from New York City, or New York. You can tell me if I got that wrong when you get up. Fernanda is a Group Experience Director at Media.Monks, where she leads UX and strategy for digital products and platforms across the United States and Canada. Based out of New York, Fernanda oversees UX and strategy practice, responsible for delivering world-class digital experiences across a wide range of industries, including technology, travel, retail, and much, much more. And I believe the last time you were here was actually online, so this is our first chance to have Fernanda in person. And we're really excited to hear what you have to say. So please welcome Fernanda Gonzalez.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me fine? Yeah? Okay. Well, yeah, last time that I was here was in my PJs, and I just had like a really nice sweater on it, because I was doing this virtually, but I'm super excited to be in front of you humanly. So I hope we have a good time for the next 30 minutes. And yeah, my talk is about transformative leadership in UX. And I know it sounds really big and grandiose, but I want to assure you it's pretty, actionable. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm Fernanda, and I'm really focused on digital products and platforms for all my career. I look young. I don't know if I'm that young. I'm an experienced designer. I'm also consider myself a strategist, specifically for digital products. And I know we wear many names and many hats, but well, that's how I perceive myself or tag myself. Mexican born and raised. I have been living basically all my life in Mexico until this Thursday that I moved to New York. So I'm a very new New Yorker, and now I'm here with you guys. This is super exciting. And yeah, I know that we're going to be talking a bit, but my pronouns are she, her, hers. And well, I'm really, really nice to meet you all. I'm going to leave all my credentials at the end, so if we can, I really want to make this a conversation. I know we have 30 minutes to talk about these topics, but I want your point of view on that, because I think that is what is important around this event. But not just about me. I'm representing Media.Monks, specifically the business unit around platforms. And what we do at platforms, and what is relevant for this conversation, is that we focus on everything that is .coms, microsites, mobile apps, and we work with very different industries with very different clients. So we have been able to kind of pick the minds of a lot of different, stakeholders within companies. And we have discovered that there are very interesting connections between what are the challenges that they see for this year, also moving ahead, but also after the pandemic, right? We know that it's definitely a new world, but I think this year and specifically has been hitting us really hard in terms of, macroeconomics and the state of, the world. The sky in New York yesterday was red. So I think there are so many things happening around us that we really need to take in consideration, and it is impacting one way or another our practice as UXers. I know we have not only UXers, but bear with me. And the interesting thing about this as well is that the point of view that I'm bringing to you today is not only mine, but also a lot of conversations around people around the world, because this team is a team that is seated in Latin America, here in North America, in EMEA, in APAC. So it's a different it's a summary of all these conversations and what we see and what we can share with you to see what you think as well. So today is about a conversation on these challenges, but also the expectations that we have seen for UX as a practice, and how we can set up our teams for success. Even if you are a manager or you are a designer within a UX team, a design team, or a product design team, we think that this is something that could be interesting for you. The first thing that I want to point out is that we have been getting a lot more of these emails, and I don't know if this happens to you as well, but we need help optimizing Xflow, right? Because I think we're in a moment of maturity for all the digital products and platforms that we're working with, that we develop a lot of things in the past years. We have been moving forward, and we have implemented new tech stacks. We have implemented design systems. We have been really doing a lot of work. But then there was a moment where everyone started asking for how we are converting. Like, what is the return of investment of everything that we have been doing so far? Why this X flow? What is representing for me as a business? So we are getting this question over and over and over again, a lot of audits that have been coming in the past year. And as well, we have seen a lot of re-platforming. And I know this is more from a technical perspective, but everything is connected. We see a lot of companies who has or develop or design amazing front-end experiences, but the back-end remained, like really old or really legacy-driven, let's say. But now there's a moment where everything is collapsing because your tech stack is not suited up to keep up with all the design that you have been doing. Then you have backlogs, beautiful backlogs that looks more like graveyards because you cannot implement anything. So we have seen as well this situation of more companies integrating new CMS platforms or CMS systems, like trying to connect all their digital properties together. And this is starting to, I don't want to say conflict, but it's starting to make these frictions within everything that has been designed. So we need to rethink again, or not rethink, but we need to evolve everything that we have been building so far. So and the provocation that I have for you today is we truly believe, and I truly believe, that we move from the biggest pain point from a UXer that was, I need my company to sell in on doing user testing. Like, how can I make my company paid and give me the time to do user testing, to the company saying, you're not going to design one line without having user testing, right? Like, I think we're in a completely other side. We did it, guys. I think there was a lot of education happening in the last years. But now what I see the most is the question that we get from the stakeholders, and this can be internal stakeholders on the company, or in our case, our clients, is how do we back up with data, validate through testing, to deploy and to deliver results before the next board meeting? Because everything right now, and I think I know before as well, but everything is around how do we prove it works? How do we prove is giving a result to the company? So I think the challenge has changed completely. I think the past was about making sure that UX was not visible from an egocentric point of view, but it was visible because of the value that it brought to the experience and to the company. But now we need to fulfill that promise, and that comes with operational and, like a series of challenges that this is what I want to talk about. So if I can summarize it, as I said, after discussing this with multiple industry companies of very different sizes and in very different moments of maturity in their digital ecosystems, that has very different structures from their internal design and tech and product design teams, these are some of the challenges that we have seen pop up more and more. And they are divided within what are the challenges when you want to activate an initiative, a feature, or a product? What are the challenges regarding the design of that, like initiative, feature, or product? What happened when you try to deploy those initiatives? And what happened when you try to optimize? So we have seen a lot more. We start asking us about the quality of data, right? We see that we need every single ticket to be backed up by what is the data that is telling us that that is the right direction, that this is the right problem, let's say. Like, we are attacking the right problem because we have data that tell us that is where we need to focus our attention. We have seen more and more that the quality of the data, where most of our stakeholders or the clients that we work with are taking decisions, is not accurate. So this is, of course, a challenge because you have someone telling you this is the right problem, and then you come in, analyze the data, and you're like, is it really? Because maybe there's some discrepancies between the data. Maybe there's not a flux in the selling at that point. Maybe it is. So that part is quite interesting and challenging. Another piece of it is the conflicting internal priorities, and I think in the previous talk there was a bit of a discussion around this of having real and clear ownerships. We have seen as well that the different areas of the companies are normally having their own objectives, and it's a very different way why all these people are going to have their bonuses given. So we need to try to understand that, right? We have seen, as I said as well, a big push in migrating to content management systems and programs. So this piece has also like starting to make a flux between, like how everything was connected. I remember very clearly a couple of briefs that come to us that says we're moving to X amount of, a specific CMS, because we were in this other, but now we need to migrate everything, but now, like the platform that we're used to use, is no more, so we need to, rethink the whole thing again. And the whole question is, how do we do that without losing everything that we have had so far? We have a design system based on that. So I think there's a big one on there. Another piece which is interesting, just going a bit faster, is we are seeing a cut in timelines and in budgets. And I want to see if it's like a general thing, but we need to make more things faster with less people, and that's the reality that we're in. So we're trying, this is a challenge that for us, of course, we need to have in consideration, because that changed a bit how do you prioritize and how do you start selecting different type of methods, or how do you adapt your processes towards that. And last but not least, we have seen as well a bit of a challenge in the implementation strategies. That means that we do a lot of research, we do a lot of strategy, we said what we want to do, but the moment that we are deploying, somehow there's like a void there where a lot of things doesn't get implemented, and then whenever you come back to do the optimizations, well, half was in a deck and half was in a Confluence, and it was never done. So I think there's another piece of it that is quite challenging and can propose a lot of opportunities for us. Lastly, we have also seen that the optimizations teams, the setup, the structure of the team that are supposed to, like if you have an engine up and running, and is the people that need to start, reviewing and creating these optimizations, normally are not stood up for success because everything else that we have said so far, right? Like maybe data, maybe even, I don't know, like you want to take decisions around heat maps, but the heat maps were never implemented, so 3 months later, you don't have the data to do so. So these are the things that has been interesting, that we have been popping more and more and more, that you want to do optimizations, but you don't have the data to benchmark things on. And we are also seeing, and this is more a need, is innovation beyond fixing. I think we spend a lot of time, which is not bad, optimizing the MVP, but we never get to phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3, because we are not innovating anymore. Like we launched something that was, very thoughtful, and then we are making changes here and there, but companies are coming back again saying okay, but how do I integrate ChatGPT to this? We're like, well, maybe just don't integrate ChatGPT, but they start asking you how do I evolve? Because what was my MVP 3 years ago, 5 years ago, well, it is keep up and running. The engine is still there, but it's not being pushed, a bit more. So that is another one that I think is interesting. And the faster ROI reporting, and this is what I said, and maybe you have other data, but the one that we have is we're always working towards the next board meeting. Normal is business, and I think this is the biggest piece that I want for this talk for today, is how do we bring business in, and we enable our UX practice to adapt and not see this as a risk against our absolutely user-centric approach to, the work that we do, but we actually combine that with something that allows us to be more valuable for the business that we work in. So what I want to share with you in the last part of this talk is 7 learnings that has helped us to set up our UX team. And when I say UX team is all designed for success. And there's no magic word for it, I have to say. We're still struggling, and we're still adapting, and we are still trying to experiment to see how we can approach all those challenges and how do we make those opportunities. But these are things that has been working fairly well. The first one is we need to install in strategic thinking as a key skill from UX. And this comes from so many people that we have interviewed to join the team, even the people that has been part of the team, as UXers, we are really, really invested into the technicality of UX, which is good, and this is important, and it is part of our practice, but sometimes we will rather understand more. Yes, you can use Figma super well, but can you solve a problem? And that's a bit of the challenge that I put in front of all of us. We need, and I'm very, very convinced that we need strategic thinkers. We need that UI, UX, and every single person who touch a project come in with an attitude of analyzing, distilling information, understanding what they have around them, being resourceful, which is very important. You know, like what happened when you don't have the time to make the whole framework again? Like what happened if you have to take pieces of the framework in order to get value out of it? So strategic thinking, one of the key aspects every time that we are interviewing someone, or even when we think about how do we upskill the profiles of UXers that we have in the team, we think about this. Do we have critical thinkers? Do we have people who knows how to solve problems? It doesn't matter if they have all the tools. They're going to go and look up for the tools. So beyond titles, because it's not a matter of having, like, now go and make a team full of UX strategists. That's not it. It's depending on the structure of your organization, of your team, of the profiles that you have around. Think about this specific skill. Because these people are going to help you analyze, interpret, conclude, and define actionables, which is what we need today. We need people that can flex their approaches around the time that they have to solve the problem, the budget that they have to solve the problem, even if the budget is not exactly money, but what are the resources that you have for it? And what is the value that X method against another one, or what happens if you like skip a bit more forward around the design process? People need to understand the value of it. At the end, that's the way that we're going to, just deliver more value sooner. So this is all around to say we need UXers that can talk business. And this is, I feel, one of the most important things, if you can stay with something in this, in this call, is we need UXers who understand the business they're in and the business that their stakeholders are in. Because all that, we already have the user centricity in our minds, and that is not going to go anywhere. We need to connect it with this. Second one is we need to capitalize on multiple sources of data to get you started. Every time that I see a project or an initiative or a ticket or anything that we're working on, there's always this struggle of we need to do user research first. And we're like, yeah, we do, and we love it. And maybe this is, like a weird side from a UXer to say, no, don't do UX research. Right, if you have the time and you have the resources and you have the budget, go for it. Do anything you can in order to get that motivation and pain points out of your users. But if you don't, go and look up the people next to you, because maybe there's an SEO expert around the corner. Maybe there's a data specialist around the corner. Maybe you are the you took a couple courses of data analysis, even your tech team, right? So we have seen, the value that has been to start talking to other disciplines who maybe have data that can help us make smarter decisions, especially when SEO come in at the beginning of the projects, when they start, crawling the website or the app that we're working on. They give us the rankings, they give us indexing. That information is so useful for us, for example, to impact the information architecture decisions, or even identify where we might be losing people with. Data and tech audits, for me, are also such a huge piece of it. We need our teams to be able to read dashboards, which is something that I know, around the path, start getting a bit more lost. We want people that can come into a dashboard and start extracting the inside side of it, not the chart, not the chart that is going to go into the deck. We want people who can interpret, again, these data. And all that can complement your discovery and research planning. So don't look up the other way. If you have people that can complement these skill sets, really is going to be super helpful in order to help us create the next one, which are business cases. We like to say that business cases are our new best friends as UXers. Why? Because every single, and I know it's a bit small, but those examples here are specific initiatives that we are proposing to specific clients. What we have here is Lisette, an amazing UX strategist from our team. And we have been exploring a bit, how do we explain that if you do this, you're going to receive that? That pushing this ticket or initiative all the way up front of the pipeline is going to be valuable. Like, how do we make that stand in front of our clients or in front of our stakeholders? So business cases, amazing. We deep dive a lot on consulting frameworks. Just how do you explain what is going to be the value behind it? So this one is one that I leave it to you. I think there are many, many formats around it that you can pick up. But if you want to talk to a stakeholder that you need a sign-off with, come with a business case. The second one is, and of course there's going to be an AI slide in this presentation, is about leveraging the tech tools in order to speed up our game. We have less time, we have potentially less resources. What we can do, we can use what we have at hand. And what we have at hand is a really interesting set of digital tools. And we have here Emma, and we have Valen up there, who has been playing around inside the company around what we can do, which, for example, this is, again, just an example, like ChatGPT, in order to speed up our user research process. Can we come up with a series maybe of guiding questions for an interview process? Can we come up even, we're still exploring this, but how far can you take it, right? How can we use these tools in order to make the parts that maybe are more tactical faster? So use it our advantage, not against us. Another one, interesting application that we have seen, for example, in visual, has been the creation of mood boards and inspiration. We are not using this, of course, to create the designs that we're going to give to our clients, but we have seen a really interesting use of Midjourney and these other more visual engines to create a couple of very conceptual pieces that can help us to explain a bit more that conceptual visual direction side of the projects that we work with. And one that I really like a lot is how can we start using, and this one is we have a couple of examples around it, is predictive search APIs in order to elevate and not starting to code from scratch a very flexible search engines for our projects. For example, all the way to the top, what we did was we have this client that has a lot of content, but it was an insane amount of content. How do we make people come faster to that content? We said, well, we can do a lot of things in terms of architecture, but the best way forward is just people to start, having an input on the things that they need. And if you have a very traditional search engine, when you basically have to put keywords, people are not going to get there because, one, they don't know your product. They don't know the exact keywords to get you there. Let's make this more fluid. So we find out that instead of us creating from scratch a full automated artificial intelligence power search engine, there's a lot of APIs that you can buy that can help you, with that. So it's not about being the first or, just putting all your code and design teams, in order to start creating a lot of new engines. Use the engines that exist. And I think that's fast, it's easy, and just pay for it and be legal and all good. The other one that I really, really like is how Figma has also given us a lot of really nice plugins, and not just Figma, but the whole community around accessibility reviews, even SEO. You can run quick SEO reviews, not in Figma, but with other plugins around. So it is very important for us that I think it's very important for us and for you to leverage on these tech tools. Next one, so I can go faster because I have 5 minutes, is we have to find the perfect dance between testing and iteration. Please do be mindful of all the range of methods that we have in our disposal, and just be very intentional. If you do qualitative versus quantitative, when is the moment? Again, it all comes back into how much time do you have, how many resources, when do you need to deliver. We have a lot of tools in our hands right now. Let's make use of those. And this one is, whenever you have a client or internal client that is asking you for, how do I get the ROI of this specific initiative that we're working on, you can talk about collaboration. Because in order to understand the sales funnel, the journey, all the touch points that you have in your ecosystem, whenever you said, I'm going to redesign a website and I want to know what the traffic is going to be, well, that comes like 3 steps before that, right? So again, we need to connect more with the other teams. We need to connect with the people that has that connection and the data, the CDPs, everything that help us integrate more within the teams that are working in different aspects of that ecosystem. So whenever you want to measure data, you need to measure that against the whole journey and the different touch points. And this is the last one, which is, I love it, is let's just keep it human. This is an overstated concept, which is your clients, the stakeholder that is in front of you, have motivations the same as your users. So you already know how to take and understand motivations from your users, but what stress your buy-in stakeholder? What makes them dream? Again, what is going to enable them to have that bonus? We need to understand people from a human level, and that means the people that we work with every day. And that includes our own team as well. What motivates your design team? Because all that together is going to enable us to really exceed and approach all the challenges that we saw at the beginning. So quick summary, I want to say, is the picture slide, is not all of them, but these are some of the topics that we feel are really, really, really important and are easy to activate upon in an extent that can help you. And I hope it is going to help you serve as a kind of playbook in order to start addressing those challenges in case you have them as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts. These are my personal channels. And of course, if you want to learn more about Media.Monks, we're always open for hire, so big app here in between. Thank you so much.
Fernanda, thank you so much for that. Wonderful to hear how an agency like Media.Monks is exploring that kind of growth and managing how you guys are adapting to these insights. You mentioned to me when we were meeting beforehand that it's not about looking forward, but it's about looking at where you are today. Can you just elaborate on what you told me there? Because I found that really interesting and kind of helps maybe frame some of this talk.
Yeah, I think me and as a company, we're really more into the mindset of the challenges are today, so we need to solve for today. And that doesn't mean not looking forward and creating future-proof methods and approaches or whatever it is that we are doing. Is like we want future-proof platforms whenever we're working on them. But we are more around, yes, there are going to be many trends, but we want to focus on the now because we think like the now is shaping the rest. And as everything just shapes so quickly and it just changes so fast, if we are adapting without reacting, which is, I think, the middle ground between those two, we are sure we're always going to keep innovating.
Right. It seems more like, I mean, at the end of the day, trends will influence the kind of things you end up doing.
Yeah.
But if you understand why you're doing what you're doing and looking backwards to say, well, look, trends come and go, but there's a certain trajectory to behaviors and things that we're doing. And as they shift, we know which trends are sticking with it, and then we keep adapting. Yeah. I'm getting some great questions here, so I will jump over them. But yeah. I think part of the person you're describing as someone who's working within your team, or maybe as you're advising other teams, would be best described as a T-shaped person. Do you guys talk about T-shaped people in your organization?
Yeah, no, we do, and we even have the chart of it for everyone. But we do believe that there's a baseline of a skill set that we want from everyone that integrates the design team at Media.Monks. But we do believe that every person is different.
Right.
So we don't do the T-shaped approach as a rule for the role, let's say, a senior UX designer. Like, we know that we can have 5 senior UX designers, but the T might change someplace. So we try to cast people into projects utilizing what are the strengths for each person. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, I'm going to go to the questions that we're getting on the Slido app here.
Yep.
So I'm going to start with, and this may be coming from like an organizational standpoint. Media.Monks, you guys are working with very large organizations, especially seems like your particular section with platforms. Oops, I just lost my question. Where'd it go? Back here. What are the biggest challenges? And I'm going to augment because I had a question similar to this. What are the biggest challenges when trying to change the mindset of an organization to apply this sort of thinking? And if you could only choose one or two and say, like, look, we really only have the ability to focus on one right now, or really kind of make one of these happen. Is there a priority that you see as being universally applicable to most of the clients that you work with, or not?
Yeah, I do believe that it depends on the maturity of the organization, because it's not the size. You know, like, we have seen clients that are very big, and you will never imagine that, like, the maturity in terms of the team structures within it it is not as, you know, like, as far as we would have expected. And we have small organizations who are super lean.
Right.
And I think the direct response to that is we see there's a big shift in the mindset, because companies know they need to be leaner and they need to be, in general, just more connected. They just don't know how. So I think the opportunity here is that change management type of work that we need to do with them, even though it's not necessarily, you know, like a wireframe or a specific deliverable. We are very into these mindsets of consultatives and say, like, well, this is what we have learned in so many years of working with companies like this. This is what we see, what it works and what it doesn't, and we try to bring this to the clients as well. So if I can pick one, would said workshop at the beginning. I think just like workshopping, and as well to the previous talk around design systems, like, if you put all these people who like are in the same office but never talk to each other, not even when they go to the bathroom. So put them in make them face to face and make them, you know, like, connect within what connects them, and, you know, like, push there as well in a constructive way their frustrations. I think just workshops are and will continue being our most powerful tool for collaboration. Mm-hmm.
I can totally speak to that. Workshops, so many times in our experience, have been like, you just need to get everyone saying the same thing in their own language, and then trying to get everyone to understand and then explore.
Yeah.
And it's super powerful. I'm getting like 3 or 4 versions of the same question, so I'm going to grab them and kind of combine, as I like to do. So this is great. In today's fast-paced world, and you're talking about, like, you just moved to New York? Because I was like asking her, do you know so-and-so in New York? Which is the dumbest question I could ask anyone. Do you know Steve in Toronto? It's like, Melanie, she's in Toronto. Anyways. But I think my preamble to these questions is, in the way that the pandemic has affected, and I work in your industry, so I know what it's like now we don't have to walk down the hall for meetings. Now we can jump on a call with a client from anywhere. We don't have to fly to LA. So like the time has changed. The ability for people to focus on projects has changed. Organizations like Media.Monks, having worked in a similar, now part of Media.Monks organization, I know there's often an idea of, let's nurture, grow, develop our people to ensure they're growing, but that oftentimes can run up against the available time we have to do the jobs we're in front of. So that's my preamble to say, it's a great idea. How do you, and I'm going to try and now combine the questions, how do you combine mentoring and training with the day-to-day work? Augmenting to that, how do you encourage things like critical thinking and strategy within your team? Is it through training? And the last piece, so I'm going to try and resynthesize this, but basically, how do you nurture these new skills, ideas, and techniques in the workplace for the teams you're working with and for your clients? Like, how does it all fit into the day-to-day work that you guys do?
Yeah, that's $1 million question, right? I think that we just, I would like to say our chief creative officer kind of summarized it as, we are always, at least even though we're big, we have the mindset of trying and see if it sticks or if it doesn't. So we fail a lot. What I mean to say is the way that we upscale and try to shift and implement, let's say, new or different type of mindsets, even specific tools, right, that we want the people to use are by having constant conversation with our operation teams to try to make the space for that, right? We know it's not easy, but whenever you are in tandem with your operation, a lot of great things happen, right? I think it's not that we are that silo, so we have people that we target upon, like you are the task force for UI or for, like AI. You guys, like need to, we're going to give you licenses, go and play with it, and then you let us know what happened. And it's a bit of what you saw in that slide. And that helped us to not put everyone, for a full week, because honestly, it is impossible to do that. You have clients that you need to attend. So we try to identify what motivates people and what is just going to be not like an extra burden. We try to do that, of course, as well within your regular hours, because we don't want anyone to stay late for that. But yeah, in a way, that's the way we do it. We're just trying to make the spaces, but we try to do it focalizing some people that then can help us kind of spread that out to the rest of the team.
That's smart. That's smart. So little SWAT teams of experience when you guys are able to apply it.
Mm-hmm.
Another question, I think we've got time for one more. And again, I'm going to put a bunch together because they're all very similar. So we do have a number of people in the audience who are students, but I also, when we did show of hands earlier on, a large number of people here who are working in the field itself. And what you're talking about, I think, is relevant to people who are working as professionals in the industry. What would you say are advice, people who are trying to sort of adapt in a workplace that may be becoming more competitive, when thinking about the skills and the ideas that you're presenting? Where should people focus their efforts?
I will say where not to, and is whenever you're looking at an organization, try to understand better what is that organization does to a core, so you can understand what is the need that they have for, let's say, a designer, UXer, UI, whatever you're applying to, developer, the same thing. Is because we are so tied into fighting over how do we need to name ourselves still, years after that, which is still crazy to me. And if I should be a UX UI, and should I be named like that, or like all those conventions, and if you have to use Figma against something else, focus more on what are the things that drive you towards the discipline, what are the things that you want to know about, and kind of cast yourself the company that is going to enable you to do that. Because I have seen many, many people where we said, I don't work within product, even though I love product, because I like to have the option to work with multiple industries, and I like to hop within those to understand them. I love this initial piece of understanding, but I have friends who are really good inside a specific, and I call it product, but it's any company that will have an internal team that does design, that they like the consistency of having, one design system to work with, different pieces of the ecosystem, but at the end is one brand. So if you're driving towards that, go for it. But if you're driving and craving more towards that diversity, you're going to get bored, in 2 months in the other one. So I think it's just more I know it's very complicated, because I have been there as well. It's very complicated, but you need to make that, internal analysis of what do you like, and not be afraid that it might change tomorrow, because it changes all the time.
Right. I mean, today's day and age, I just had a great lunch earlier. We were talking about AI, and it's on everyone's mind around how it's changing things rapidly.
Oh.
I have to imagine for you guys as well, it changes the role, the work. You're talking about ChatGPT and Midjourney, and I'm sure other kinds of systems in place, so the idea of adaptability. How do you stay adaptive? How do you stay adaptable to everything rapidly changing every week?
I do believe that a trait of a UXer, at least, is you have to be a bit nerdy, right? You have to keep track of what is happening, and you have to try it. And this is something that I can, when I talk with other managers, especially people that are less, involved within the work itself, is I'm a weird person who likes to manage, but who also likes to be in the weeds of the work itself. But you need to keep learning. If ChatGPT comes out, you download it and you start playing with it and you try to understand the power of it, if it works. And then, of course, you give it to other people that is smarter than you, and they make, like amazing things with it. But how I do it, I try to still have a fun in playing with things that are new and see if any of that kind of help me impact efficiencies for my team or just the quality of the work, which are my two main priorities.
And I'm kind of like streaming off of that a little bit. One of the things that stood to me, so I come originally from interactive and animation as well, and working with a lot of designers, I've noticed the strength of what you're describing here around, and kind of talking about T-shaped people. You can be really good at design, but you're really good when you're able to understand business or data and insights in order to influence the work you do and what that work then does back upstream to the client, to the rest of the team. Where would you advise for people who maybe don't have exposure to the concepts behind businesses that their clients are working in? Because for a lot of the people who may be starting their career, but I'm also thinking about maybe people even mid-career, that's really important knowledge that may not be obvious as to where it is. Like, do you have places you would suggest people go? Do you have techniques, tools, books? What would you advise to people who need to expand that knowledge set?
Yeah, I would like to say that what has worked for me is every topic that I feel it is relevant, even though it's not a direct topic to the specific discipline that I have. In this case, digital transformation, service design, UX strategy is definitely involved with, but just even business models, right? Like I try to just start creating a node with all the things. For example, like the most recent one was content strategy, which we have done, but I think now is way more relevant than ever. I was like, I don't think I know that much. I have teams that does, but I don't think so. So what I do is try to find books, because that's the way that I learn. I learn still through books, and I like physical books. I know, sorry, environment. But I know a lot of other people that are way more into looking at videos and, buying a Kriana or, another type of, so it's just find your way of learning, but identify the topics and start creating a learning path for you. So I will say that's for me at least, the easiest one. Read one or two books. I really love I know this sounds like an ad, but it is not, I promise. The Interface Design Foundation, I think it is called, which is just because it has a lot of things about a lot of topics. So everything that something come up is just oh, AI. Or whenever the metaverse was super in. I mean, I don't know if it's in anymore, but it was how do you design for VR? Oh, perfect. It's not that we are UXers, we don't know everything just because we have the UX title on it, right? So we need to go and search for it.
Be curious, right?
Yeah,
Seems like you got to be curious about technology, curious about the business, be curious about your clients, be curious about the place you're working. It's great advice. I'm going to ask one last question. By the way, the metaverse has gone nowhere from what I understand. It's just very expensive. Very expensive.
I mean, it's really cool, though, right?
It is cool. I can't wait to get my Vision Pros, multiple. Because I'm getting one for every room.
We need another talk just about that.
Yeah, just about metaverse. That'll be the spotlight of metaverse.
Okay.
Because this has been given a lot of votes, and so I'm curious about your view on this.
Yeah.
As a woman in technology, any tips, any observations, things that you want to share? I got a lot of votes here for this question, so I'm asking it to see what your perspective is.
Yeah, I would love whenever there's a moment in time where it's not a topic to be a woman in technology because it's so normal. Sadly, it is not. But I don't know. Every time, because I get that question a lot as well, around
I'm going to reframe it because I don't like the question, which is why I saved it to the end.
Yeah.
No offense to whoever posted it.
But it's fine. I can answer it.
But I think it needs to be recontextualized because you are not a dynamic as a woman. And I look at this audience, which is, I would like to say, predominantly balanced, if not leaning more towards. What are your observations in terms of that dynamic that we're describing here? Now that we should be past it, what do you think we need to be thinking about as advice to anyone in this audience, however they identify around this idea of women in technology, men in technology, et cetera?
Yeah. No, I do believe that it is important to acknowledge it, because if you don't acknowledge it, then it doesn't change. But I will say that it's kind of I do believe that not just women, but everyone in leadership positions need to have a point of view, a strong point of view on it, and we need to expose more people within, like, for example, and of course, no offense to FITC, but I was the only woman in all the talks today, and I was like, there's definitely more out there. I know a bunch of them, right? So the good thing is that maybe I can share some of those names, right? And it's just a matter of searching for, because I do believe we exist.
Yes.
We're here, and we have been here for a long time, but maybe we were just not as connected as maybe another peers or pals which deserve the same space as us, right? So I think that we have to be more intentional. Like whenever we hire, whenever we look at our leadership positions, we need to acknowledge what is happening in terms of diversity there. And I do believe, though, and I have a very strong opinion on this, is that it's not the responsibility of, in this case, woman or any other person, like to fight that battle, because it should be like a common battle. It should be just rethinking every time that we see a list, and I'm saying this in all the contexts. As I said, in my position is if I'm hiring and I see that from 50 applicants, 50 of them are male, it's not that I'm going to discard them, but I'm going to go and look actively for other 50 with various types of identities, so I can have a diverse team, because if not, what am I doing, like as a manager? So I would say is intentionality might be the key word here.
Great. I regret asking the question only because it doesn't feel like it is all related to the larger topics we've been discussing, which have been incredibly insightful. So thank you for taking the time. I want to thank everyone here everyone for asking their questions. We are done for this particular session. I think we're going to take another 15-minute break. Fernanda, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.